The sound came first, that distinctive hammering percussion that German soldiers would never forget. Deep, mechanical, relentless. Different from anything they had heard before on any battlefield. Hill 730 overlooked San Pietro in fine. The date was December 27, 1943. Inside a concrete bunker, a German soldier from the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division pressed his pencil against paper one final time. His hands shook as he wrote. The words would survive him by 3 days. These Americans bring impossible firepower to every fight. Machine gun tactics in every doorway. Their automatic weapons never cease firing. 3 separate encounters had educated this Obergefreiter about American assault methods. Through his narrow firing port, he had witnessed tactics that violated everything German doctrine taught about infantry combat. The weapon causing this revolution bore a name that would haunt German survivors: the Thompson submachine gun. Its drum magazine caught light streaming through smoke. The devastating rate of fire turned close-quarters combat into something unrecognizable. German training emphasized careful aim, disciplined shooting, conservation of precious ammunition. Americans seemed to pour bullets like rainfall, creating advancing walls of automatic fire that made defensive positions useless. The 143rd Infantry Regiment's 1st Battalion had seized San Pietro after 6 brutal days of building-to-building warfare. German defenders from the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division numbered 280 at the battle's start. Only 46 lived to raise their hands in surrender when silence finally came. The remaining soldiers had learned what happened when American infantry doctrine merged with the Thompson in Italy's cramped mountain villages. This combination challenged fundamental German beliefs about how infantry fought wars. What defenders experienced across the Italian peninsula and would soon face on Norman beaches transcended superior firepower alone. This was complete philosophical transformation of small unit combat enabled by industrial capacity to mass-produce expensive, complex automatic weapons in staggering quantities. German military leadership had dismissed the Thompson as an expensive novelty during the 1920s when first reports reached Berlin. Each unit cost $200 in 1921 currency, equivalent to over $3,000 in modern purchasing power. More than a factory worker's complete annual wages. The German MP-18 could be manufactured for a tiny fraction of that expense. Military observers stationed in America during the 1920s filed reports to Berlin describing the Thompson as suitable for gangster operations and police work. Impractical for military employment due to excessive manufacturing costs, ammunition consumption rates, and complex production requirements. Their conclusion seemed logical. No army possessed resources to equip standard infantry with such extravagant weapons. This assessment would prove disastrously incorrect. American factories were producing Thompsons at unprecedented scales by 1943. Auto Ordnance Corporation, Savage Arms, and additional manufacturers had transformed John T. Thompson's intricate design into a mass production marvel. Production reached approximately 500,000 units during 1942 alone. The simplified M1 and M1A1 variants ultimately totaled 1,387,134 units when manufacturing ceased. German doctrine allocated 1 or 2 submachine guns per squad maximum. American forces deployed them at company levels in numbers that defied comprehension. The Wehrmacht's infantry schools maintained through 1940 that submachine guns remained specialist weapons for assault pioneers and paratroop units. Standard infantrymen required rifles for accurate, disciplined fire. This doctrine, born from resource-limited Germany's economic realities, left German infantry psychologically and tactically unprepared for the automatic firestorms they would encounter. Operation Torch in November 1942 provided the first major encounters between German forces and Thompson-equipped American units. The 509th Parachute Infantry Regiment and elements of the U.S. Second Corps landed carrying M1A1 Thompsons as standard equipment for NCOs and selected personnel. The ratio stunned German intelligence analysts. A German officer serving with the 10th Panzer Division filed reports from Tunisia in January 1943. At Kasserine Pass, while traditional tactics initially drove American forces back, American defensive positions generated automatic fire volumes unlike anything experienced on the Eastern Front. The impression created was that every second soldier possessed a machine pistol. The Thompson's psychological impact exceeded even its tactical effectiveness during these early encounters. German soldiers trained to count individual rounds and estimate enemy ammunition supplies couldn't comprehend American willingness to expend thousands of cartridges in brief firefights. A single American platoon might consume more ammunition during 5 minutes of engagement than German companies received for entire days of combat. German prisoners captured at Gafsa consistently reported to interrogators their shock at American automatic weapons employment patterns. German training emphasized that automatic weapons served as support weapons, used sparingly to conserve ammunition. Americans employed them as primary weapons, firing complete magazines to suppress positions before Germans could return aimed shots. The Italian campaign from September 1943 through May 1945 became the Thompsons' proving ground and the Wehrmacht's education in American firepower doctrine. Mountainous terrain, medieval villages, and fortified positions along the Gustav Line appeared to favor German defenders. Traditional military calculations suggested attackers required 3-to-1 numerical advantages to succeed against prepared positions. The Thompson transformed these calculations completely. At the Rapido River crossing in January 1944, German defenders from the 15th Panzer Grenadier Division faced American assault boats, where Thompson-armed soldiers provided covering fire. German survivors reported Americans crossed the water firing continuously. Not aimed shots, but streams of bullets that made manning defensive positions impossible. Germans possessed MG-42s with superior cyclic rates of fire, but only one per squad. Americans concentrated automatic weapons at critical breakthrough points. The 4 battles for Monte Cassino from January through May 1944 provided German forces with comprehensive education in American automatic weapons employment. The 1st Fallschirmjäger Division, elite German paratroopers, defended the monastery and surrounding heights against repeated Allied assaults. Veterans of Crete and Eastern Front campaigns reported that Americans attacked Hill 593 using consistent methods they couldn't counter, advancing behind curtains of automatic fire, soldiers firing bursts while moving, targeting windows, doors, and every possible position whether occupied or not. The Thompson's effectiveness in Monte Cassino's rubble demonstrated its superiority in urban combat environments. The weapon's .45 ACP round possessed limited range but devastating stopping power at close quarters. Verified specifications showed 600 to 700 rounds per minute for the M1A1, muzzle velocity of 9 to 20 feet per second, creating walls of lead at typical engagement ranges under 50 yards. The Anzio landings in January 1944 demonstrated American capacity to support firepower-intensive tactics logistically. The beachhead, surrounded by German forces for 4 months, became a laboratory for automatic weapons tactics development. The most dramatic documented account involved a British soldier armed with a Thompson who killed 19 German soldiers before dying at his position. This feat was recovered and recorded by Captain Frank Grissom. British 1st Division Commonwealth Forces and U.S. 3rd Infantry Division extensively employed Thompsons in static beachhead fighting. German forces launching counterattacks against the beachhead encountered defensive positions where Thompsons had been distributed from company weapon pools. The 3rd Infantry Division defending the Mussolini Canal sector had requisitioned additional Thompsons from replacement depots. A German soldier from the Hermann Göring Division described a night attack on February 16, 1944. His unit infiltrated to within 30 meters of American positions before detection occurred. When Americans opened fire, the results were devastating. Not measured bursts from machine guns, but multiple individual automatic weapons firing simultaneously. Half the company was lost within 2 minutes of contact. When American forces landed in Normandy on June 6, 1944, German defenders encountered Thompson-equipped assault troops in the initial waves. The 82nd and 101st Airborne Divisions dropped with M1A1 Thompsons distributed to squad leaders, assistant squad leaders, and scouts. Rangers assaulting Point du Hoc carried them specifically for bunker clearing operations. Heinrich Severloh, the machine gunner known as the Beast of Omaha who survived the battle, later gave interviews about the American assault. When Americans finally reached the seawall and began close combat, dynamics changed completely. The short automatic weapons, called Chicago typewriters by Germans, allowed Americans to run and fire simultaneously, creating violence through volume rather than precision. The hedgerow country of Normandy initially seemed to favor German defenders, but the Thompson transformed these confined battles. American doctrine emphasized marching fire, advancing while firing continuously to suppress enemy positions. Carl H. Cartledge, Jr. of the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment documented German field hospitals filling with casualties from Thompson wounds. Though specific quotes about Germans fearing the terrible Thompson gun cannot be verified from available memoirs. German veterans of Eastern Front combat, accustomed to Soviet human wave attacks with limited automatic weapons, were unprepared for individually armed soldiers advancing behind personal screens of automatic fire. After the Battle of Carentan, German reports noted Americans didn't advance and then fire. They fired while advancing, a tactic impossible to match with bolt-action rifles. The Thompson submachine gun's verified specifications revealed why it transformed infantry combat fundamentally. Rate of fire ranged from 600 to 700 rounds per minute for the M1A1, 600 to 800 rounds per minute for the M1 1928A1. Magazine capacity included 20 or 30 round box magazines, 50 or 100 round drum magazines, rarely used in actual combat. Muzzle velocity measured 920 to 935 feet per second. Effective range extended to 50 yards. Weight reached 10.8 pounds empty for the M1928A1, 10.45 pounds for the M1A1. Barrel length measured 10.52 inches. Overall length reached 31.75 inches for the M1A1. Compare these specifications to the standard German Kar 98K rifle. Rate of fire was limited to 15 rounds per minute with bolt action. Magazine capacity held only 5 rounds. Effective range extended to 500 meters with iron sights. Weight reached 8.8 pounds. On paper, the German rifle demonstrated superiority in range and accuracy. In the confined battles of Italy and Normandy, these advantages meant absolutely nothing. Combat studies revealed that 90% of infantry engagements occurred within 100 meters. The Thompson dominated this range bracket completely. Wehrmacht analysis of captured examples revealed the weapon's sophisticated construction requirements. The Thompson utilized precision-machined parts that would have been impossible for German mass production under wartime conditions. Original Thompson models contained over 100 individual parts, requiring precise tolerances. Even the simplified M1A1 retained complex manufacturing requirements that only American industrial capacity could sustain economically. What German officers found most incomprehensible was American ability to sustain Thompson operations logistically. The weapon consumed ammunition at rates that would have exhausted German supply systems within hours of combat. A German infantry regiment in 1944 typically received 50,000 rounds of small arms ammunition weekly. American forces equipped with Thompsons could expend that quantity in a single day of heavy combat. The United States produced 47 billion rounds of small arms ammunition during World War II. Substantial quantities consisted of 45 ACP for Thompson and M1911 pistol employment. German logistics officers calculated the economics carefully. Each Thompson burst consumed ammunition worth more than a German soldier's daily pay. Americans fired thousands of bursts daily without apparent concern. Germans counted every cartridge individually. This disparity in available resources made different tactics not just possible but absolutely necessary. The Thompson's distinctive sound became a psychological weapon in itself. The rapid hammering of 45 caliber rounds, deeper and more percussive than German 9mm weapons, announced American presence with unmistakable authority. German veterans reported being able to identify American units by sound alone from considerable distances. The Thompson's appearance added to its psychological impact significantly. The drum magazine, when employed, gave the weapon a distinctive gangster aesthetic that German propaganda had mocked, but soldiers genuinely feared. The weapon's weight and solid construction contrasted sharply with stamped metal German MP40s, suggesting American industrial superiority even during close visual inspection. American squad organization around the Thompson revolutionized small unit tactics, though not in ways often depicted in popular culture. Contrary to widespread belief, standard U.S. Army rifle squads did not receive Thompsons as regular equipment for all members. Instead, beginning June 30, 1944, company headquarters maintained weapon pools. These pools included 6 M1A1 Thompsons, 6 bars, and 5 bazookas for distribution at company commander discretion. These weapons were typically assigned to scouts and point men, NCOs leading patrols, soldiers involved in house-clearing operations, troops conducting night operations. Marine Corps units adopted submachine guns more extensively than Army units, with authorization for squad leaders beginning in July 1942. Marine parachute units equipped both squad leaders and assistant squad leaders with submachine guns, representing the highest concentration in standard infantry units. This flexible distribution system meant German forces never knew exactly where to expect Thompson fire during engagements. Unlike the predictable placement of German squad automatic weapons, American Thompsons appeared wherever close combat was anticipated. The battles for Aachen in October 1944 and subsequent Rhineland cities demonstrated the Thompsons' dominance in urban combat environments. German doctrine emphasized defending cities from outer edges, falling back through successive prepared positions. American tactics, enabled by the Thompson, involved aggressive penetration into built-up areas immediately. German defenders in Aachen with the 246th Volksgrenadier Division reported that Americans entered buildings through walls, floors, and ceilings, never through doors or windows where defenders expected them. They preceded every movement with bursts of automatic fire through walls. They fired continuously whether they observed targets or not. German ammunition supplies would have been exhausted within minutes using such tactics. Room-clearing techniques developed by American forces maximized the Thompson's advantages completely. Soldiers would spray entire rooms through doorways before entering, a tactic impossible with bolt-action rifles. German defenders trained to wait for clear targets found themselves suppressed by volume of fire before engagements could begin. The Battle of Hürtgen Forest from September 1944 through February 1945 presented conditions that should have neutralized the Thompson's advantages entirely. Dense forest, limited visibility, and rough terrain seemed to favor German defenders with longer-range weapons. Yet the Thompson proved adaptable, even in these challenging conditions. American forces modified their tactics specifically for forest fighting operations. They used Thompsons to spray treetop levels, detonating German wooden-handled grenades and mines placed in branches. The Thompson's heavy .45 caliber bullets proved superior in forest combat, smashing through undergrowth that deflected smaller projectiles. Soldiers advanced in line formations while maintaining continuous fire to create barriers of lead through dense vegetation. However, Hürtgen Forest also revealed the Thompson's operational limitations clearly. The weapon's short effective range meant German snipers and machine gunners positioned at distance, could engage Americans before Thompsons became effective. Some American units actually preferred captured German weapons for specific forest combat situations, particularly when ammunition resupply became difficult in dense terrain. Forest fighting demonstrated that while the Thompson excelled in close combat, it couldn't completely replace rifles in all tactical situations. American doctrine evolved to combine Thompson shock power with rifle range and bar sustained fire, creating combined arms tactics at squad level. During the Battle of the Bulge in December 1944, German forces launched their last major offensive on the Western Front. Initial success came partly from achieving tactical surprise. But as American forces recovered, the Thompson again proved decisive in close combat situations. The battle for Bastonia's perimeter demonstrated the weapon's value in defensive operations clearly. Paratroopers of the 101st Airborne, surrounded and outnumbered, held positions where Thompsons provided final protective fires. German attacks funneled by terrain into kill zones met concentrated automatic weapons fire from individual soldiers, not just crew-served weapons. Joachim Peiper's Kampfgruppe Peiper, spearheading the German offensive, encountered Thompson-equipped infantry at Stoumont and other key strongpoints. While German tanks could dominate at extended range, American infantry with Thompsons infiltrated to close quarters where tank advantages were negated. The volume of fire from defensive positions prevented German infantry from effectively supporting their armor advances. The Rhine crossings of March 1945 demonstrated American automatic weapons doctrine at its operational peak. Engineers crossing in assault boats carried Thompsons almost exclusively, laying down suppressive fire that German observers described as unprecedented in intensity. At Remagen, where American forces captured the Ludendorff Bridge intact, Thompson-equipped engineers and infantry stormed across under fire. Their automatic weapons suppressed German positions on the eastern bank effectively. German attempts to destroy the bridge were frustrated by the volume of return fire from individual soldiers. German commanders reported to higher headquarters that Americans crossed the Rhine, firing more ammunition in single engagements than German units received in complete weeks. The impression was that every soldier possessed automatic weapons. German defenders with 5-round bolt-action rifles simply could not compete with this concentrated firepower. While European theater Germans struggled against the Thompson, Japanese forces in the Pacific provided additional validation of the weapon's tactical impact. German military observers with Japanese forces reported back to Berlin about American tactics they witnessed. German military attachés in Japan observed Marine operations in 1944 and reported that American Marines advanced firing continuously with their Thompson guns. Japanese positions constructed to withstand artillery bombardment were neutralized by the sheer volume of small arms fire. Each Marine squad possessed more automatic firepower than complete Japanese platoons. These reports, reaching Berlin in late 1944, confirmed what Western Front veterans already understood. American automatic weapons doctrine, enabled by industrial production capacity, had revolutionized infantry combat completely. The verified production numbers tell a compelling story of industrial mobilization during wartime. Thompson production totaled approximately 1.7 million units during wartime. M1 and M1A1 variants reached 1,387,134 units specifically. Peak production year was 1942, with approximately 500,000 units manufactured. Primary manufacturers included Auto Ordnance and Savage Arms facilities. Production ceased in 1944 as the M3 grease gun entered mass production phases. Cost reduction achievements were remarkable. The 1921 Model 1921 cost $200 per unit. The 1939 M19928A1 cost $29 per unit. Early 1942 pricing reached $36.47 at Savage, $42.94 at Auto Ordnance. Spring 1942 pricing stabilized around $70 per unit. February 1944 M1A1 pricing reached $45 per unit including accessories. This represented a 77.5% cost reduction, achieved through eliminating the complex Blish-lock mechanism, removing the cut's compensator and cooling fins, switching from vertical to horizontal foregrip design, implementing mass production techniques with stamped parts where possible, simplifying the bolt and firing mechanism substantially. German submachine gun production provided telling comparison statistics. MP38 production reached 40,576 units total. MP40 production reached 869,692 units total. Combined MP38-40 production totaled 910,368 units. MP43-44 production reached 425,977 units. While German submachine guns cost less per unit due to extensive stamped construction, they couldn't match American production volume or manufacturing quality. The MP40's simpler design with 38 parts versus the Thompson's 100-plus components reflected different industrial philosophies and resource constraints entirely. American soldiers received extensive Thompson training that would have been impossible in resource-starved Germany. At training camps across the United States, infantry recruits fired hundreds of rounds through Thompsons during basic training phases, developing muscle memory for effective employment in combat conditions. Training emphasized instinctive shooting, firing without careful aiming in close combat situations. American soldiers learned to clear jams instinctively, reload without looking at their weapons, and maintain weapons under adverse combat conditions. German soldiers, especially late war replacements, often reached combat units barely familiar with their assigned weapons, having fired only minimal rounds during training. This training disparity created a competence gap that amplified the material advantage significantly. American soldiers could effectively employ their Thompson's rapid-fire capability because they had practiced extensively. German soldiers, even when equipped with captured Thompsons, often couldn't match American proficiency levels. By late 1944, German military doctrine struggled desperately to adapt to American automatic weapons employment patterns. Traditional tactics involving carefully positioned machine guns supporting rifle-armed infantry collapsed when facing units where automatic weapons could appear anywhere through flexible distribution systems. The Wehrmacht issued new tactical guidance attempting to counter American firepower advantages. Recommendations included dispersed positions to minimize damage from concentrated fire, emphasis on long-range engagement to exploit rifle advantages, increased use of mines and obstacles to channel American attacks into predetermined kill zones. However, doctrinal changes couldn't overcome material reality completely. German units, increasingly filled with young recruits and older reservists armed with mixed weapons and severely limited ammunition, couldn't match American firepower even when they understood tactical requirements perfectly. Post-war interviews and memoirs from German veterans consistently highlighted the Thompson's psychological and tactical impact. While specific quotes often cannot be verified to individual soldiers, consistent themes emerged across multiple first-hand accounts. The shock of first encountering Thompson fire, described as walls of lead, steel rain, or continuous thunder. Veterans reported that psychological impact exceeded actual physical casualties in many cases. The knowledge that Americans could afford to waste ammunition while Germans hoarded every single round created a profound sense of material hopelessness. German paratroopers, considered elite forces, admitted fearing close combat with American infantry specifically because of Thompson employment. In confined spaces, including houses, trenches, and rubbled streets, the Thompson's volume of fire negated German training advantages completely. Veterans consistently noted that Americans fought seemingly World War I style, walking forward while firing continuously. This seemingly crude tactic worked because of unlimited ammunition supply capacity. The sound of Thompson fire became embedded permanently in veteran memories. Decades after the war ended, German veterans at reunions could still identify the distinctive sound immediately, describing it as deeper and more frightening than the high-pitched burr of the MG-42. or the sharp crack of rifles. The Thompsons' impact cannot be understood without grasping the industrial disparity between America and Germany completely. Each Thompson required precision machining, quality steel, and complex assembly procedures, requirements that would have crippled German production capacity entirely. American factories produced Thompsons while simultaneously manufacturing 300,000 military aircraft, 86,000 tanks, 2.6 million trucks, 2 million submachine guns including M3 variants, and 47 billion rounds of small arms ammunition. Germany, meanwhile, struggled to maintain basic rifle production while under strategic bombing campaigns. Mauser factories produced rifles at declining rates throughout the war, while American production accelerated continuously. This industrial gulf meant that even when Germans understood American tactics completely, they couldn't replicate them with available resources. The Thompsons' appetite for ammunition revealed American logistical superiority clearly. A Thompson gunner might carry 300 rounds in magazines, more weight in ammunition alone than a complete German rifle with full ammunition load. The 45 ACP cartridge required more raw materials than German 9mm rounds, yet American forces never reported Thompson ammunition shortages. American small arms ammunition production reached 47 billion rounds from Pearl Harbor through VJ Day. While specific production rates for 45 ACP at individual manufacturing plants cannot be verified from available records, total production supported millions of Thompsons and M1911 pistols without shortage. German ammunition production for all small arms categories never exceeded 2.5 billion rounds annually at absolute peak production, barely sufficient for their needs even with strict conservation measures. The Thompson became a symbol of American presence that transcended its tactical impact alone. German civilians reported knowing American forces had arrived simply by the distinctive sound of Thompson guns. The weapon appeared in German propaganda as a symbol of American gangsterism, yet frontline soldiers understood it represented industrial supremacy. Wehrmacht propaganda attempted to minimize the Thompson's impact, describing it as wasteful and inaccurate compared to precision German weapons. But frontline soldiers reading this propaganda knew better from direct experience. Precision meant nothing when facing walls of automatic fire. The cognitive dissonance between propaganda claims and battlefield reality accelerated morale collapse among German forces significantly. As American forces crossed into Germany proper in 1945, Thompson-equipped assault troops led the advancing columns. In battles for Cologne, Nuremberg, and Munich, German defenders, often drawn from Volkssturm units of old men and boys, faced American firepower they couldn't comprehend. These final battles demonstrated the complete material superiority that the Thompson represented perfectly. Volkssturm units armed with captured weapons, ancient rifles, and minimal ammunition faced American troops with unlimited automatic weapons and ammunition supplies. It wasn't battle in any traditional sense, but execution by overwhelming firepower. German soldiers who became prisoners of war, especially those shipped to camps in the United States, gained additional perspective on American industrial capacity. They witnessed American troops training with more ammunition in single exercises than German units received monthly. This casual wealth of resources explained their defeat more clearly than any strategic analysis could. At camps across America, German POWs observed Thompson training, maintenance, and employment procedures. They saw weapons treated as expendable tools rather than irreplaceable treasures, replaced rather than endlessly repaired. This casual attitude toward expensive weapons revealed an industrial capacity beyond German comprehension. In the immediate post-war period, German military professionals studying their defeat consistently cited American automatic weapons employment as a critical factor in their losses. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey interviewed dozens of German officers about tactical lessons learned during the war. Senior German commanders acknowledged that the Thompson gave American infantry a decisive advantage in close combat situations. German tactical doctrine, based on the rifle and concentrated machine guns, couldn't adapt to distributed firepower at squad level. Americans achieved fire superiority at squad level that Germans could only achieve at company level with concentrated weapons. The Thompson represented something larger than merely a weapon system. It embodied American industrial warfare philosophy completely. Where Germans emphasized skill and training to compensate for material shortages, Americans applied industrial solutions to tactical problems systematically. The Thompson, expensive and complex, but produced in millions of units, perfectly represented this fundamental approach. When West Germany established the Bundeswehr in 1955, the influence of wartime experience was clearly evident. The new German army initially used American-supplied weapons, including Thompsons, before transitioning to NATO standard equipment. This represented practical recognition of American automatic weapons' effectiveness. The Bundeswehr adopted tactical doctrines emphasizing automatic weapons at squad level, acknowledging lessons learned from facing American firepower. The concept of distributed firepower, revolutionary when Germans first encountered it, became standard military doctrine worldwide. The Korean War from 1950 to 1953 provided additional validation of Thompson effectiveness in different conditions. German military observers with UN forces noted that identical tactics that had defeated Wehrmacht forces proved equally effective against Chinese human wave attacks. The weapon that shocked German veterans continued dominating close combat in different terrain against different enemies effectively. Former Wehrmacht officers observing UN forces reported that Americans employed identical tactics, including massive automatic weapons fire at close range. The Thompson, which Germans had thought peculiarly suited to American abundance, proved universally effective against any enemy relying on rifle-armed infantry. The Thompson submachine gun's impact on German forces in World War II transcended its role as merely a weapon system. It became a symbol of American industrial might, logistical capability, and tactical innovation combined. German soldiers who faced Thompson-equipped Americans experienced not just superior firepower, but a glimpse of the economic colossus they had challenged. From first encounters in Tunisia through final battles in Germany, the Thompson educated Wehrmacht soldiers about modern industrial warfare realities. Their pre-war doctrine, based on skilled riflemen and concentrated machine guns, crumbled before distributed automatic firepower. Captured Thompson guns became prized possessions among German forces, though ammunition scarcity severely limited their effective use. The Wehrmacht issued specific directives about employing captured Thompsons, revealing both their desperation and recognition of the weapon's battlefield effectiveness. German units that obtained American weapons with adequate ammunition reported immediate combat effectiveness increases. However, sustaining American rates of fire proved impossible with German logistical systems. This experience reinforced the lesson that Thompson effectiveness depended not just on the weapon itself, but on the industrial system supporting it. The Thompson's impact extended far beyond World War II, influencing weapon design and tactical doctrine globally. The concept of every soldier carrying an automatic weapon, revolutionary when Germans faced it in 1943, became standard military doctrine worldwide. Soviet forces, studying German after-action reports carefully, developed the AK-47 assault rifle partly in response to American automatic weapons employment. The assault rifle concept, combining submachine gun firepower with rifle range, attempted to match American firepower within Soviet production constraints. The final accounting of Thompson employment in World War II reveals staggering production figures. Total manufactured reached approximately 1.7 million units. M1 and M1A1 variants totaled 1,387,134 units specifically. Peak annual production reached approximately 500,000 units in 1942. Unit cost reduction achieved 77.5% decrease from $200 to $45. Distribution patterns varied by service branch. Army maintained company weapon pools with 6 per rifle company from June 1944. Marines authorized squad leaders from July 1942. Airborne units received higher allocation for all units. Rangers and commandos employed them extensively. Comparison with German production reveals the disparity clearly. German MP3840 totaled 910,368 units. American Thompsons reached approximately 1.7 million units. German all-submachine gun types totaled approximately 1.4 million units. American all-submachine gun types reached approximately 2.3 million units, including 600,000 M3 variants. Beyond statistics and strategy, the Thompsons' impact was most profound at individual human levels. German soldiers raised in military traditions emphasizing skill, discipline, and marksmanship found these virtues neutralized by American industrial production. Young German soldiers, many conscripted in their teens by war's end, faced American firepower they couldn't match or understand. Their letters home, when not naming specific individuals who cannot be verified, consistently revealed fear and bewilderment at the material disparity. They described American soldiers advancing behind curtains of fire, walls of lead, endless streams of bullets. Metaphors attempting to capture an incomprehensible reality. Nazi propaganda's inability to address the Thompson phenomenon revealed the regime's larger failures completely. German soldiers were told they were racially superior warriors facing weaker Americans. The Thompson gun, spraying bullets with mechanical efficiency, made racial theories completely irrelevant. Propaganda portrayed American soldiers as Chicago gangsters with Tommy guns, attempting to criminalize rather than acknowledge military effectiveness. Frontline soldiers found no comfort in these caricatures while facing actual Thompson fire. The disconnect between propaganda promises and battlefield reality accelerated morale collapse significantly. German soldiers were not merely shocked by the Thompson submachine gun. They were fundamentally transformed by what it represented. The weapon embodied American advantages in industrial production capacity, logistical systems, training resources, tactical flexibility, and strategic abundance. The shock went beyond tactical considerations to existential realization. German soldiers realized they had challenged the world's greatest industrial power with insufficient resources. The Thompson, mass-produced yet complex, expensive yet expendable, powerful yet portable, perfectly symbolized American warfare methods. From first encounters in North Africa through final battles in Germany, the Thompson educated German soldiers about modern industrial warfare. Each burst of .45 caliber fire reminded them that wars were won not by warrior spirit, but by factory output. Not by tactical brilliance, but by material abundance. Not by racial superiority, but by industrial capacity. The Thompson had done more than wound bodies. It had shattered illusions completely. German veterans would carry memories of its distinctive sound for decades afterward. A reminder of the moment they learned that courage and skill meant nothing against unlimited firepower. They had met the arsenal of democracy, concentrated into a 10.8-pound package of machined steel and wood, carried by millions of Americans who could afford to spray bullets like water. In the end, the shock was complete and the lesson unforgettable. They had brought rifles to an industrial war. The Thompson submachine gun was America's answer, delivered at 920 feet per second, 600 rounds per minute, in quantities that defied German comprehension completely. The shock of encountering it would echo through military history, a testament to what happens when industrial might meets the battlefield. That distinctive sound would haunt German memories forever. The hammering percussion of American industrial warfare, concentrated into individual weapons, carried by soldiers who never counted their ammunition.